So we're here to talk about your new album.
Hmm.
Okay, so it's gonna be released on February. We still have some
Hmm.
weeks until it's released, but we already heard some singles and videos.
Hmm.
Okay, so people were already getting differences between this album and the last Hunter Gatherer from 2020. But
Hmm.
for you, if you have to compare both albums, which difference do you see between one and another?
The two, a couple of words, I guess. The first one that I get big difference is a sense of focus.
Uh-huh.
Um, I feel like because uh, it's all part of it's all a long journey, a long evolution. If we can go back to Avatar Country, which is an album we made with the main purpose of making something funny and
Right.
playful. And because of that, all the other things had to wait. And then it was time for the next album. It wanted to be everything that wasn't funny.
Mhm.
And but then we couldn't quite clearly in hindsight decide exactly what that would be. Some stuff are quite trippy, almost progressive, and some are really straightforward. There's a bunch of different energies happening where song by song, I'm so very, very proud and happy with that album. But when you look at the big picture, it's not super clear what that big picture is. And I think now when we don't have to stay away from the fun so much, we could focus on really being what Avatar truly are today, which is it deals in darkness and all that, but we are still, as we, create our metal dwelling in darkness, we also make rock and roll where we make you dance. And it's that circus, it's a metal
Yeah.
circus. And and with the other side of the idea of focus would be to really, instead of making one song that is angry, sad, and scary, you make one angry song, you make one sad song, you make one scary song. Like each song in itself, at least in my mind, the way I hear them, feel more focused like that on what their purpose is, musically and thematically. So a stronger sense of focus, stronger sense of rock and roll, really.
Right. Great. I was checking the videos before the Johan
Hmm.
Carlin videos. They're
Mm.
great, and especially
Thank you.
Dance Devil Dance. Right. I don't know if you know that we have in Spain we have a famous TV series called La Casa de Papel, which is a money heist, and they are about a group of robbers who go into a bank dressed and disguised with the face mask of Os Dali. And when I saw the video, the Dance Devil Dance, when you are on this red also costume with a face mask, it resembles of that. Wouldn't it be
Huh.
great? It wouldn't be great that fans attend to your shows dressed with a face mask of Avatar? That would be great.
Absolutely. But people already do similar things. With people, a lot of people paint their faces
Yeah,
with my face before coming to the shows and stuff. But yeah.
like, yeah, exactly. And on that song, I was getting on Dance Devil Dance especially, but also on the album. Uh, I get an 80s vibe, especially on the clean parts where you sing. It's like a resemblance of 80s heavy metal. I don't know if it
Hmm.
is intended or it's just me getting that vibe.
Well, I don't think we. I was about to say something that isn't true. I don't think I necessarily was thinking let's go 80s anywhere. But the thing is, if you say let's be metal, there's so
Hmm.
many thick core things of great metal that originated in the 80s. The only place where I remember at least naming a decade was when with Chimp Mosh Pit. To me, that's a really loud and heavy 90s song somehow. If Oasis were heavy metal or something. Again, in my own head, might
Yeah,
be super inaccurate in someone else's head. But that I know, like, oh fuck, this has a 90s vibe. Uh, but the 80s stuff comes like the thing is, uh, I love Judas Priest, and I always end up studying Judas Priest when we write. I think there's just so many essentials on what's the point of what we're doing that can be found in there.
yeah.
So and and a lot of their work, and certainly a lot of my favorite work by Judas Priest was made in the 80s. So it's I guess it's per default when dealing with metal,
Right.
that there can be that. But then at the same time, what you try to do, or at least we try to do, is recontextualize. Just that, yeah, you have the 80s sound. You have things that originated in the 80s, but then you try to put it in a place, in a way, with riffs and stuff, but that necessarily are 80s in themselves. Dance Devil Dance! Yeah, but sure, but to play that kind of offbeat guitar riffing, it's not an 80s thing. So, you just try to put the pieces together differently, at least. But it still has to be metal if it's Avatar.
Exactly. Yeah, and you made all the headlines last summer when someone interviewed you and you were speaking about this new album, and all the headlines said something like Avatar say that they need to save heavy metal with this new
Yep.
album, and they are trying to save heavy metal. What exactly did you mean?
Well, I mean a couple of different things. Number one, maybe I'm having fun. But I also mean it in some ways, because there are a couple of things I have a problem with. And obviously, I'm not saying Avatar doesn't need to go out and save Megadeth. Avatar doesn't need to go out and save Gojira or anything. That's not the point. There are tons of great metal, also modern metal that's being made. But I think there's a general thing that among all the things I like, there's such a tidal wave of stuff I don't like. That I feel the way I see things are missing. Are missing the point of why even do this. And part is, I think a lot of modern metal becomes so elaborate that it's best enjoyed if you sit down and shut up. And I think that's a mistake, to make metal something that you sit down and shut up and listen to. I think metal, any kind of this kind of, heavy metal is rock and roll. Rock and roll is dance music. And as such, that there's a movement in it, that there's music that you can actually fuck to, or go to the gym to, or drive too fast to, or you can start doing drugs or quit doing drugs. It's just music that drives you in some kind of fucking direction, in and out of itself, between the drum and bass, and that the structure and the type of music, that it's music for movement, a steadfast rhythm. So yeah, dance music, in that sense, and I think there's too little of that, and the other half of it is because that is kind of dealing with when things sometimes get too complicated. Because the thing is, people think, oh, I do a weird guitar rhythm, we're like Meshuggah. No, I can dance to Meshuggah, I can move to Meshuggah, I can fuck to Meshuggah. So it's not the same, and also the classic death metal bands, like also Obituary. You can dance and fuck to Obituary. I swear, I tell you, you can. I don't know if you want to, but you can. It's in there in the music. It's so fucking groovy. And I think, so you miss those parts if you're being overly complicated. And then the other half, if you're going to be direct, if you're going to be a bit more melodic, maybe, if you're going to be all these things catchy, don't be lazy. And don't ruin your sound by sound replacing your drums or beat detective, autotune, clinically destroying all your own DNA in the process of creating something that you should just have done some techno music instead then, so lazy, pop sounding, overly produced things that doesn't sound like humans anymore is that a problem? And again, this doesn't apply to Gojira. I guess as it goes, that. So, but I think this is one of those things where I say it, where to me it's obviously what it means, because I see the problem, and also, so I think it's a statement if people were bothered by it, and I don't think so many were at the end of the day. But if you get it, you get it, and if you don't get it, it's fine. I don't need to. I don't owe you that explanation. Not you, Jorge, but the royal you. I don't owe anyone any further explanation by it. For me, it's pretty obvious what it's about. And then one thing that people, if you get defensive about it, maybe miss the point of why I'm saying this. You must understand, heavy metal gave me literally everything.
Right.
Heavy metal gave me an identity growing up. It gave me my best friends to this day. It gave me a dream that I then got to live. It gave me a creative outlet. It gave me a chance to make a mark on this world. I met my wife at a metal show. It gave me a way to pay for, put food on the table. Metal gave me everything that my mom and dad didn't, and they gave me a lot. But everything after that can be attributed to my life in metal, to joining
Right.
this fucking circus. So it's out of pure love that Avatar come here and say, we want to do the best we fucking can. And you know what? Not all things being done today are good enough, with
Mhm.
all due respect. And again, there are some great things, but do I even have to tell you that? Everybody knows that there are great things going on, you know.
Right.
But there's a
Um,
general problem in music overall, and especially in metal, where I think if we and not just us, but if more bands start getting this right to a greater degree, then maybe we can make metal bigger and bigger also, you know.
right. Yeah, going on the way that you were spoken for about having backups, especially for live shows, there was a controversy this summer because a band had to cancel their appearance on a festival because during their flight they lost a suitcase with the laptops where they have the backups for the live shows, right?
Mm.
And so they canceled their appearance on the festival because of that. What do you think of these bands that don't play 100% live sets?
Well, it all a little bit depends on genre, style, and what you're trying to do, you know. But it gets, because the thing is, we also use, there's a laptop on stage when we
Uh-huh.
play, but we don't. But there are no guitars, drums, bass, or lead vocals in the tracks, you know.
Right. Hmm.
But we have our little samples and synthesizers, you know. Like, we don't have keyboard in every song, but you have
Right.
it maybe in 2-3 songs, or samples, or an extra drum machine thing. And then you can't hire, we don't bring in one more member to play 15% of a set.
Yeah.
And that's normal in modern times, I guess, to do that. The difference is that uh, if everything breaks, we can still play the rock and roll version of our sets, you know.
Exactly.
And I think so, but that is also still relies on, depending on, like on a festival, I guess there should be amps that you can borrow and things like that. I know, like, actually was we never met them when it happened, but many years ago we played at a festival in Gothenburg, Metal Town, and
Hmm.
someone comes running. What are your guitar tuning in? B standard. Vader's guitars are fucked. They're gone. Can they borrow yours? Vader, fuck yeah, yes, please. And then so you should be able to scramble your equipment. But one thing also, because when we record an album, we use amplifiers,
Yeah.
But live, we have these rack-mounted, are the Kempers, I guess, or what they are now. I don't remember if they even switch. But,
Right.
we simulate the guitar amp on stage,
Yeah.
which means that we could still, of course, plug in a guitar amp and play a set. Absolutely, that's what it's based on, so that's fine. But it's also true that, therefore, our specific sounds are digitally saved there. So it depends on what setup they had otherwise. I cannot, I can just relate to how we do things, and but it's hard to comment their specific situation. I struggle to understand why it wasn't possible for them to do it. I mean, if it's the guy who did that the computer game Doom soundtrack, then I understand that he needs his computer,
Hmm.
So it all depends a little bit on what type of music it is, I guess.
Exactly.
But a
Yeah.
band like us, who, yes, we use the technology, but we use it in a specific way where the technology is not the star on the stage, I guess.
Yeah. Well, in
So
this case, it
there
was
is
yeah. In this case, it was a metal band with guitars, drums, or vocalists, and it was a normal
well, then
metal
I
band.
don't
So
understand. Then I
yeah,
don't understand. And as I don't understand, I can't put so much more opinion in it.
yeah,
It's easy to take it at face value, like, what the fuck, that ain't metal. And it probably isn't, but I'm not in a position to specifically
Yeah.
say because I didn't speak to them. But it sounds kind of lame.
Yeah, yeah, it's totally understandable. All right, so one of the things that makes Avatar so special is that it's so diverse from album
Mm,
to album, and
mm,
especially in one, and even in an album, you don't have the same song in an album, and every album is different. I think even your costumes are different from album to album.
yeah.
Yeah, so it will be a crime for Avatar to repeat something from album to album. It's something that you get in mind, like we have to change every time, we have to be diverse, we have to explore new things.
Well, no, but yeah, exactly. Like the thing is, and it's a bunch of reasons. It's simply the stubborn pride of saying never write the same song twice, and uh, it just yeah, that's the simple part of it. And then I guess the other thing is a way to. The thing is, again, I'm here to have fun. I'm here to. This is the way I live my life, right? And I feel that we keep finding ways to be hungry and interested and challenged, and that is why
Hmm.
we do this. Also, like um, I want I like yeah like what sorry yeah like it's a strong need, uh, at least I have, and I think there is about to a certain degree to like feel like a beginner in one way or another, to feel like you are that teenage kid who, when we recorded our first album, we financed it ourselves and didn't have a contract or anything. We just, you know, took a lot of shitty jobs extra to get us a little bit of money and then recorded very cheaply. And had no clue what we were doing. And there's a
Hmm.
magic to, you learn so much every time about recording, about creating, about yourself, that is important to try for us to try to find a way to feel clueless. And
Yeah,
just making sure that you make different songs each time, I think, is part of it. And it's also because I want to, again, that's, I guess, again, goes back to that very basic love for heavy metal. This lifestyle is, again, just wanting to add something new to the conversation, like, uh, uh, we don't need another Ace of Spades,
yeah,
it's, they wrote the best version of that song.
totally. One thing that seems to be constant in Avatar, especially on the last albums, is the producer you're having,
Mm-hmm.
Ray
Mm-hmm.
J. Ruston, right? You're
Yeah,
still working with him, and he's again on this new album. I assume that there's no one else better for this job at this point, at least.
exactly. At this point, and the thing is, and I want to make it very, very clear that because before him we did one album with Sylvia Massey, and that we ended up now doing many with Jane, just one with Sylvia. It's
Hmm.
not to be taken as a review of Sylvia Massey. I think if you, as a musician, have a chance to work with her and you don't, you're an idiot. She's a genius. She's great. Um, I think it's all about the idea of change, of finding new challenges. And one thing we discovered, we did Black Walls with Tobias Lindell, and that was great. It was very important for us in a lot of ways to make that album and how we grew from it. Not just grew that we got more fans, but grew on the inside. And and then we did Hailed Apocalypse also with him. We found the new challenge that was the first time we recorded an album live and did all those things.
Hmm.
And it was cool. It was hard as fuck. But real, great. But they also felt like it was time to, with all due respect for Tobias, who did very great, important things for us, it was time to move on from him and look for new change. Because what's
Yeah.
special with Black Walls was special. We were a bit scared, new producer, a real producer, and that was cool. And then we weren't so scared the second time. Fuck. Okay, Sylvia. Oh, that's scary. That's new. Oh, let's go to Germany and a castle record with her. New, scary, different. And then we ended up having Jay mix that album and Hail the Apocalypse also. So he was always there in the periphery anyway. And then once time for Avatar Country was finally simply his turn,
Hmm.
and it clicked, and it clicked so well. Also, just as basic people, that we are tall Nordic. He's North American North, and we're North Europe North, but very Nordic, snowy, tall, blonde weirdos. Like very, very relatable, similar values, vegans, dog lovers,
Right.
very forbidden sense of humor, the kind of, and all these different things where we really clicked and in how we are. And for the time being, we still have found other ways to feel like beginners, other ways of challenging ourselves to make it feel hard, to the extent where it's actually then suddenly good to have that rock of Jay there to work with. Also, because as a producer, he everything is possible with him. In a very constructive way. Like I really feel free to be an artist who can have at times kind of abstract visions, and with him we find a real way of actually creating that thing.
Yeah.
And so you can rely on him so much for that. And with that friendship, so who knows? And also just the working hard part, which was true also before, but just I can he has, because when we record, like, first the band ever all together, do the meat and
Hmm.
potato, then you do the overdubs, the solos, the vocals and stuff, and then it's my turn. And we all in the band we take turns getting little breaks when recording,
Hmm.
because everyone takes turns going in the fucking J.
Yeah.
And so Jay has no breaks, but he's on it and on it and on it, and has an ear for anything and deeply engaged in everything. And he gets as many takes from you as you need. And with him, it's very easy to work that hard, you know?
Yeah.
So afterwards, when we realize, holy shit, I'm dead now, but while doing it, you don't feel like it feels good, creative, and you just work. So there are a lot of reasons, I guess, why we stay with him. So very good advice. That being said, we don't know what we do next time, because we might need a change in our own heads.
Yeah.
But again, let me put on record, has nothing to do with Jay's qualities. Jay, as with Sylvia, has been only positive. And if you have a band and you have a chance to work with any of these two people, you should.
Great. And one of the other things that is a constant in Avatar is the lineup. Except from
Mm.
Team that replaced Simon in 2011,
Yeah.
is almost the same band since day
Mm-hmm.
one.
Mm.
So how do you keep a band for so long together for 20 years?
Well, I guess in the beginning, lucky that we met each other. I mean, there were, of course, a very child version of Avatar, with some friends that rehearsed twice before I joined, pretty much. So
Yeah.
um, I am as original as you can be without being truly original. Jonas and John started the band. But when I met those two, especially those two, it was very clear very early on that, oh, this is for real to you. Like, this is actually what you're gonna do with your life. I think we all felt that with each other, that it was no joke. We could barely play, but we still felt like this is something. And once we got to know Hendrik and Simon, it felt similar. Like, oh yeah, no, you're crazy. You're gonna put in the work, and because Simon did until he didn't, until it was time for him to move on, but he was there for that, as
Hmm.
well. And then Tim we had known for a while, but similar. So on the base level of like, no, this is actually it. We got lucky in finding each other, and then we grew up with each other, and we actively. If I had a rough patch with John when we were 19 years old, 20 years old, we were able to work that out and survive our 20s together. And when life got more serious in more adult ways, and we maybe hit a bit of a rough patch, we talk to each other. I guess it's a secret.
Yeah.
We talk to each other. We are also very interested in remaining friends. And the secret, this is very an outspoken agreement between us. Like, the job we want
Hmm.
and that we are doing is, we want to write and perform our own material,
Hmm.
uh, together with each other, while remaining friends. That's the very basic, you know. We want the five of us to be friends and do our own shit. And
Exactly.
and that is important to say. We're not saying we got to be the biggest band in the world. No, we got to be the best and biggest avatar, the best and biggest that these five idiots can be. If someone say fire the drummer, get this drummer, you will get bigger, we will not do that. You know, like it has to be the best version of us five.
Yeah.
Until someone wants to leave, what can you do? Simon left, you know, but we're very Tim. It almost feels like it could and should have been Tim from day one in a way. Yeah. So
Yeah.
you know, so there's that.
Cool.
So I think that's part of it, and these thoughts, of course, are grown along the way. But it was too important. The band was too important to just give up or a fight. And again, we were all crazy enough to think, of course, we can have a job in heavy metal. I mean, I don't know if we would have been able to quit if we didn't reach this level. I think we would just keep going anyway. Just we sold our souls to it, and now we're fortunate enough that the work has paid off, at least to the degree it has now. You know.
Yeah. Okay, so you guys are coming in March to Spain. You are doing this
Mm.
tour with Bill Maya and Casocta, right? And it's very different bands there in the lineup of that tour. But I remember your first tours. You were touring with bands like Impale Nazarene, which are very
Yeah.
different from you. So I think this is like a normal day at the office for you guys touring with so different bands from you, right? So, but this tour actually it was rescheduled because it was supposed to happen last year in February,
Mm.
but COVID
Mm.
strike. So I was wondering how much business-wise this COVID strike for Avatar for a band like you,
Uh,
canceling tours and
well, you know, it wasn't these shows weren't so bad because we didn't get to go.
yeah,
It was more problematic because when we were able to go to the US, and then I got sick with 6 shows left. So we had to postpone 6 shows, and I had to stay, and everybody flew home early, and I stayed in a hotel in Las Vegas for 10 days, and that was a whole thing. So that was worse. But I mean, we did a successful live stream concert thing,
mm-hmm.
which was so we were able to we kept doing whatever we could do, throughout this, that which helped. And it's weird, like the business, of course you cannot, if you don't go out and do all the shows, you will not bring in as much as you was as if you would. But at the same time, it's very cheap to stay home. So and we were still able to sell a t-shirt or two online and stuff. So moving these shows is not what broke us. Canceling things when we were already on the way was
Yeah.
worse. And that was the scary part, so that in the midst of that, we were so fucking careful, but it was just, and I got sick anyway. So that was rough.
Yeah.
But yeah.
9,
Or
it's a
maybe
9.
I don't know.
Right. But it's not your first album or your second album, right? So you're not a breakthrough band anymore. So do you see yourselves already as established band in the metal genre by now?
I mean, I guess, yeah, I have to answer yes to that. But at the same time, I feel like we are our own little strange island in the world of metal. And I believe, and I have to believe with the work we put in, that we're going to be a bigger band tomorrow than we were yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I can clearly see we have come somewhere. We are doing something. And
yeah.
I appreciate that for what it is too,
Yeah. You're touring with Iron Maiden now and not with Impale Nazarene, so it's a big difference.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So these things, we just keep at it, and I don't think so much in those terms usually, I guess, but just
right.
We reached a point where it felt legit, where this show is as big as those bands I went to see growing up. Those kind of also the small club shows, like, oh yeah, I saw Cannibal Corpse in here, or I saw Blind Guardian in here, and like, cool, okay, that's something. Wow,